right, welcome back from that short break. Kingsley is here with me in the studio this evening as together we'll be taking a look at some of these interesting topical issues we have for you in the world of sports. Kingsley, good evening and welcome to Sport Extraordinary.
Thank you very much for having me, Mike. Nice to be here.
Nice to be here, of course. Let's start from the second edition of the national talking about the Niger Delta Games, rather, as Edo State has emerged the winner of the second edition of the Niger Delta Games, which ended at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium. The Edo State capital yesterday, before the final four relay races on the final day, the host had already been assured of a first place finish. And of course, they racked up a total of 52 gold medals, 34 silver, and 24 bronze. Delta State came a bit close to Edo State because they finished in second position with 39 gold medals, 29 silver, and 35 bronze as well. Bayelsa State also up there in the third position, and of course, Akwa Ibom. Also, the Abia, Cross River, Ondo, River State, and Imo finished, the competition on the bottom table. Kingsley, I don't know your assessments about the final conclusion of the Niger Delta game. What is your total, evaluation? Edo State, they hosted to win, but that did not come without some, controversies about allegation of trying to, cheat so as to rack up medals.
Yes, I think for me, so far so good. You talk about organization. I think they got it right. We didn't hear much, issues, when the competition, talking about the Niger Delta game. Sometimes you hear of athletes, complaining of, not enough bed space. There are mosquitoes in their hostels, and all of that. But we didn't hear such, as it stands, and it's been an impressive one, so far when it comes to do with, of course, organization, just like we discussed earlier. Before the, competition got started, each state were giving 50 million naira to prepare for the competition, and that's, of course, a good gesture, you say at this point in time. So you talk about organizational wise, I think it's been top. It was a very top-notch one, from Edo State, and we look forward to see other states emulating this same gesture when it comes to do with organizing the competition. But you talk about the performance, for Edo State, just like you mentioned. A lot of persons see it as Edo State's, of course, hosting to win, at this point in time, which is not supposed to be. So last time Akwa Ibom State hosted it, they didn't win it. It was Bayelsa who won that particular, but also finish in a comfortable position. But looking at what, of course, we heard that the Edo State actually fielded in over age athletes, which actually, of course, gave them that edge. And I think for me, that is not a good one at all. It actually takes away the essence of the competition, which is to unearn talent. At the end of the day, they shouldn't, have possibly, of course, have maybe, fielded in over age athletes. I think it's totally take away the fairness, of the competition at this point in time. But it is what it is. They are the winner of this particular edition. We'll see if they can possibly, of course, maybe look forward to fight hard to win it next time, or possibly maybe finish in a comfortable position. But so far so good. I tell you, it's been a very impressive one from Edo State. And like I mentioned, I think in terms of organization, the next state that will be hosting the Niger Delta game should look forward in trying to see how, of course, to beat this mark or maybe do something more than what we've seen so far.
All right, Edo State hosted to win. Like I said earlier, that, of course, did not come without the controversy and some questionings coming from some states out there who question the credibility of the age range of Edo State contingent in some of the events. For example, in boxing, there were some sort of difficulties to actually separate those who fall within the age bracket, because this competition was meant from the age of 18 downward, unlike the first edition. But then there seems to be more athletes who has past the age range of 18 that Edo State were accused of filling in, and they caused a whole lot of raising of eyebrow. But at the end of it all, they were crowned, champion. But then again, another disturbing angle to the just concluded second edition of the Niger Delta game Kingsley, it's about River State contingent. They finished 8th, on the log out there, almost bottom of the table. I don't know, what do you think is responsible for their poor performance?
It's very sad. Last time in the first edition they finished 4th, and now they're finishing 8th. So it's a poor performance, for Team Rivers. How can you drop from 4 places down to 8? It's really, really a poor one. We thought they were going to continue at least to fire down, maybe looking up for the top spot to maybe the 2nd position. But being at the 8th position is very, very disappointing. After much preparation, of course, we saw from the athletes. At the end of the day, they actually, of course, went down to the 8th, position. Not a good one at all. And we can as well take this away from the political issues, we've seen in the state, which has somehow affected, the sports sector. Just about a week, to the competition, we hear that the sports commissioner, Christopher Green, of course, was actually asked to leave, office. And you can't take it away. That might, of course, in one way or the other, affected the performance, of Team Rivers, heading down, to the competition. So for me, I think at this point in time, Rivers State, should try as much as they can to see how they can stabilize things, when it has to do with sport. They used to be the best. Last edition, they won the basketball events, but this time around, went down to the final, couldn't win it, lost to Edo State, also due to poor performance. Some of the athletes couldn't actually, come to participate in their different events, and which, of course, the reason is not still, uncovered, at this point in time. So for me, it's not really a good one, for Team Rivers. They should have possibly have done well. Maybe look forward to finish, very well this time around, but finishing 8th is a very, very disappointment. It's a wake-up call, really, really a wake-up call. In the last 3 years, Rivers State has not been fantastic when it has to do with, grassroots competitions like the Niger Delta Games. You talk about the National Youth Games, even the National Sport Festival. So it's really, really a wake-up call that, a lot of things, should be done to make sure that, Rivers State, of course, take back its place when it has to do with grassroots sports.
Not a good outing for Team Rivers as they just concluded the Niger Delta Games. More like a far cry this time around compared to their first outing, where they finished 4th. This time around, they finished 8th, which is not a good one at all. Bayelsa State that came first in the maiden edition, finished 3rd this time. I may want to excuse them because the host, talking about Edo State, had more of the advantage. But for Rivers United that came 4th in the first edition, this time they should have upped their ante, but quite disappointing. They finished in 8th position, and this really calls for serious concern in terms of sports development back here in River State. Kingsley, I know you must be concerned as well. How do you think, or what do you think should be done at this point in time? We don't have any you talked about Barrister Christopher Green, the sport commissioner, but then no longer what he was when at least he was, manning that, ministry. And now as it stands, there seems to be a lot of secrecy shrouded, around who takes charge in terms of sports development in Rivers State. With all of the political turmoil here and there and the destabilization in terms of the present government system, do you see Rivers State actually doing well in the next edition?
It's just going to boil down to how things, of course, tend to be, going forward, at this point in time. Now they've been this poor, when it comes to competitions like this. What are the steps that need to be taken, at this point to make sure that, they get themselves, back to base, because if you look at it, the political issues in the state is still ongoing. Just like I mentioned, the governor just asked the current commissioners, to down their tools and leave the offices or positions. and now he's trying to put up a new, appointment, and all of that. So you could see the back and forth, in the political sector, or in politics in Rivers State has really, really, of course, taking back, sports. It has really brought a huge decline, in sports. So I just hope that first thing first, the political system will be normal, all right, and then we'll start looking at who is there to pilot, the sporting affairs, in the states. If it's to bring in a new commissioner, fine, bring in a new sport commissioner, and let's see what, of course, he'll be able to bring to the table. Because in a situation whereby they do not have someone, of course, to look up to, someone that can speak for this athlete, someone that can speak for them at every point in time, it becomes difficult. I tell you, sport has really, really suffered when it comes to here in Rivers State. As stand, the last edition of the Afro basketball, of the African Basketball League, Rivers Super, somehow they suffered. They couldn't get the players, they wanted. All right, they were just able to get few. Why? Due to the fact that there was not enough money, for them, of course, to be able to put up things. And you could see that they didn't really go far, in the last edition of the African Basketball League. Was it 2 years ago? Rivers State did not participate at the National Youth Games. These are also, some of the lapses that have also brought a huge decline, to the athletes, down here. So you take a look at all of this, at this point in time, you would trace it down to the political issues in the state. So first of all, if the political system is back to normal, and then there's not a sport commissioner or someone who will oversee the affairs of sports in the state going forward, I think that will really, of course, bring back that normalcy when it comes to do with Team Rivers participating, in sports like this. For me, that's what I think, should be done. First thing first, the political system should be normal, and then we can start seeing, of course, other things, go in the right direction, especially, sports.
All right, we hope all of this well-articulated thought from Kingsley can actually yield a good result as the key stakeholders watching, listening to some of the cries from concerned citizens back in Rivers State about the state of sports decline in Rivers State, where out of Niger Delta, 9 Niger Delta states, they came 8. It is not a very good one at all. It's more like an embarrassing outing, and it really calls for serious concern here. But then let's leave that aside and talk football on the show this evening, as Rangers technical advisor Fidelis Ilechukwu says that the team is determined to maintain their recent impressive run of form in the Nigerian Premier Football League. The Flying Antelope are yet to taste the defeat in their last 4 Nigerian Premier Football League matches. Rangers held Katsina United to a goalless draw at the Mohammed Diko Stadium last Sunday. So, Kingsley, we talked about this in our sister station, how Enugu Rangers seems to be a team that will just not finish in the continent when the season started. Even at the middle of the season, it looked as though they were not finding it very easy. A lot of destabilization. The coach then went on, national team duty when the Super Eagles went for the African Cup of Nations. Poor results. But now that he's back, he seems to have, stabilized the team. 4 straight games without a defeat, and they are seated third on the log. Are they in for the title chase?
Yes, of course. You can't take them away from the title chase. For me, I think they are in for the title chase. The only thing I think might make it a little bit difficult is the fact that, Rivers United are at top of the table currently. They have 3 outstanding games. So if they can, of course, take up the 9 points in those games, it becomes difficult for Rangers, of course, to close in the gap at this points in time. There's still Ikorodu City, I think, seated second, right there. Still looking very formidable. So I think Rangers says they have what it takes to chase the title, but they really have to put in the work to make sure that they remain consistent. I think they've not tested defeat in their last 4 games. That's a good one. They will say they are back in form. Kudos to Fidelis Ilechukwu. He's been very consistent with this Rangers side. Yes, last time they couldn't make it down to the continent, but you take a look at their performance this season, they look like a team, of course, that will gain that qualification, back to the continent. So I believe that, with the way things are going, with the way things are in the Nigerian Premier Football League, they stand a huge chance of fighting for the title.
All right, away from that, Super Eagles head coach Eric Chell says his demand for an increase in salary is aimed at improving his work condition, while dismissing claims that he is threatening to quit his role with the Nigerian Football Federation over the new terms. In a recently leaked document which shows that the coach demanded for a 19-point agenda and how to make his job more easier, has raised a whole lot of dust from Nigerians and other stakeholders calling for the visibility of all of these conditions. However, the coach has come out to say that his intentions is not to leave the Super Eagles, that he still remain very much committed to the Super Eagles job. Should we take him by his word, Kingsley? A lot of divergent opinion and report. Some have said that this demand is way too big. Some have said nothing big. There's no big deal about what the young man has demanded. This demand are things that will make his work condition more easier for him. And he has come out to clear the air that he has no intention of leaving. He's committed to the Super Eagles job. Should we take him by his word?
Of course. The man has given you his commitment. He has told you, he has come out to tell you clearly that he's not looking forward to leave. All right, that his demand, or the demand he has put on ground, is to enable him carry out his job effectively. So when you employ somebody and you don't give him the necessary tools to work, how do you expect him to function effectively? That's the thing. If you employ me to work for you and I tell you, in order for me to do my job effectively, I need this, I need that, all right, and you don't provide that thing. So if I don't do the job very well, will you blame me? You will not blame the person. So for me, if he has said all of these things that he has put together and, as a demand, in order for him to carry his job effectively, is what will enable him to do his job, I think the Nigerian Football Federation should look out for a way to meet up, with the demand. They might not necessarily, provide everything, all right? Maybe there are some things they might try to see how to adjust due to the fact that, there might not be that huge amount of money, of course, to fund everything, at this point in time. So for me, I think the Nigerian Football Federation should look into it. And if you look at it, what the man is demanding is what will help him do his job effectively. Is it to provide projector for match analysis? Is this to, of course, provide a very good vehicle for him, to be able to move around and also take a look at how things are, of course, in the country? Is it to also make provision for him to try to see how to go down to watch, different, NFL games, and as well as, going out there to be able to look at, maybe monitor or watch the performance of some Nigerian players abroad? Those are things that he needs. You're expecting to even to dip his hand in the salary and pay flight tickets to go and watch Alex Iwobi to know if he's doing well, at Fulham. These are things that we're talking about. So for me, I think what the man has said, or what he has put down, is what will enable him carry out his job effectively. Is it the 24 hours electricity supply that he's asking for? Would you want him to stay in darkness and work? These are things that we're looking at. So for me, I don't see any much demand from what the man, of course, asks for. Is it the house that he has even said, okay, provide me a house? Should he stay in the bush and be coaching the Super Eagles of Nigeria? These are things, we should be looking at for at this point in time. So for me, I think it's not really a huge demand. They are complaining of the salary. Yes, you can call the man to a round table and discuss things. Okay, we cannot pay you 130. Can you take 100? Let's see what we can do to make sure we harmonize this relationship and look out for success. So for me, I don't think it's too much. You have to give him the necessary tools so he can deliver.
Give him the necessary tools so that he can deliver, because you cannot employ him without giving him the necessary tools. If he fails, then you complain that he's not doing well. But when necessary tools is provided for a workman, then if he fails, they will have no other choice than to blame him. All right, let's talk about the encomium coming in from the Confederation of African Football to Gianni Infantino, FIFA president, because the CAF has congratulated Gianni Infantino. His outstanding 10 years leadership as president of FIFA. CAF says a decade of leadership at the helm of a world football governing body has set a tone for a broader reflection for African football development, global, football development, as well as the president of CAF, Patrice Motsepe, also issued, that congratulatory message to Gianni Infantino. 10 years of a reign as, the generalissimo of FIFA. Kingsley, I don't know your assessment of Gianni Infantino so far.
I think so far so good. So far he's been fantastic. In the last 10 years, was saying how far he has been able to, of course, carry, put up a huge development when it has to do with football. One of it, of course, was the Female World Cup. We saw a few years ago how he was able, of course, to pump in more funds and also elevate, female football, as a stand, and as well as supporting, Africa as well when it has to do with, football development. What we're seeing, FIFA presidents with Patrice Motsepe, especially where they have, competitions like the, African Cup of Nations. He always, of course, you always see him around. And you talk about the African Super League that was, of course, introduced, which, of course, helped a lot of African teams, to benefit. Enyimba alone had over R1 billion, from there. So you could see all of this initiative and strategy from Gianni Infantino has really, really, of course, helped to develop football. Not just development, but as also pumping more money, into the sport, as it stands. So for me, so far so good. In the last 10 years, I think Infantino has done a great job. We just look forward to see what comes up. Even the current World Cup that is coming up, as it stands, we hear that tickets are already sold out, and all of that. That's to tell you that we have a man who knows and understands the game very well and knows the strategy that he can use to market, the sports, talking about football, to the world. And so far so good for me. I think he's done so well. We just hope that he continue with this impressive, fashion going forward.
All right, congratulations to FIFA President Gianni Infantino. He said 10 years reign so far the helm of global football body, talking about FIFA. Kingsley, you know how the tenure of Sepp Blatter ended, former FIFA president, a whole lot of corruption issues, allegation here and there. I don't know, do you think that Gianni Infantino has been able to sanitize FIFA and make it corruption-free? Are we seeing a genuine sanitization within FIFA? You think that there are still areas, some gray areas to address?
So far so good. I think we've not had any corruption issue attached to Gianni Infantino, or maybe administration of funds, and all of that. We've not had that, of course, in his 10 years, as a stand. That's to tell you that the man is putting a good record for himself and is properly making use of the funds, in the sports, as a stand. For that of the former president, talking about Sepp Blatter, I think there was a whole lot, around him, misappropriation of funds, and all of that. For that of Gianni Infantino, we've not heard such. We've not heard where things are being done negatively when it comes to, sports or football administration, so far. So for me, I think he has tried, from what we've seen, he has tried to bring that sanity, that transparency when it comes to do with, administration, in sports, as it stands. So I think for me, it's really, really a good one. We just hope that we continue to have credible leaders, like Gianni Infantino, going forward. Because if it continues like this, I tell you, football will be a very, very huge, sports, where especially when you talk about money, as it stands. So for me, I think so far so good. He has kept a good record for himself. He has brought that transparency. We've not heard anything like misappropriation of funds, and all of that. And man has been very, very accountable. And for me, I think it's really a good one for him.
Good one for Gianni Infantino, good one for FIFA, and a good one for FIFA member nation, over 211 member nation, and I think they've actually benefited and enjoyed a lot during the time of Gianni Infantino. And for Africa, I can tell you that it's been awesome, because this man has been almost involved in every African football development. You see him in the African Cup of Nations, the club competition, and some of CAF major organization. You've seen the man walking from here and there to see things for himself, and I think his scorecard is one to be proud of. Though haven't had any negative report in terms of financial misappropriation so far. For now, maybe there are some still areas that need some improvement as he continues to lead the line for FIFA. Maybe we'll do well to assess his next line of action. But we can also tell you some of the achievement that he has recorded in terms of increment of prize money for major tournament for FIFA, then granting of funds for member nation, provision of a financial incentive for women football development, underage football development. I think this man has done a lot, and in his scorecard, I think he should be nodding his head right now after 10 years. But then, at this point, we take a quick break. When we are back in the second half, we talk about the UEFA Champions League round of 16 draws. As mouth-watering draws is set to go down in the round of 16 with Arsenal, given what seems to be an easy passage. We'll be back in a jiffy.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all your bits on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. On ATM.
These people into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorables,
You human
On the point of order.
Honorables,
On the point of
they are not picking our.
All right, you're welcome back from that short break. Without much ado, let's head straight to the UEFA Champions League draws because the round of 16 draw was confirmed by UEFA just a few hours ago, far away in Lyon, Switzerland. And I can tell you that the pairing is I mean, a mouth-watering clash. First off, Paris Saint-Germain. Yes, welcome Chelsea Football Club. Kingsley, this is another tough battle with Paris Saint-Germain. Yes, thinking of a revenge in their heart. Of course, you know what happened in their last meeting in the Club World Cup.
Yes, it looks like a revenge mission for Paris Saint-Germain, but will it be business as usual? I don't really think so because the Paris Saint-Germain this season has not been dancing over fantastic, all right? We've not seen them, in that impressive fashion. Last time they were very fantastic, playing that beautiful football without, of course, having, let's say, a key man, of course, in their midst. They were just that very much united, playing unity football, and that was what really gave them edge, last time. But this time around, we're not seeing that kind of football anymore. The momentum has dropped, the tempo has dropped, as it stands, despite the fact that Luis Enrique is still the man, in charge. We've seen how they've dropped, vital points in the French League on, so far. And the Champions League, they even struggled. They have to qualify via the playoff. So you could see that the PSG side are not that, fantastic like we saw, last season. And they're playing against a Chelsea side that looks like they are also struggling, from what we're seeing, having managerial change, and all of that. Players trying to adapt to the new manager philosophy, and the manager also trying to make a blueprint, at the end of the day. So you take a look at it, it's going to be a game between two shaky sides. And I think what is really going to define this one might be the tactical prowess, from both managers, at the end, for the day. It's going to be a huge clash. PSG coming with the mindset of, having a revenge, while Chelsea will look forward to see how to dominate the game. Leon Marizano, the new coach, of course, might talk to himself and say, oh, if Enzo Maresca can do it, I can also, of course, repeat that same feat as well. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and see what comes up. But it's really going to be a tricky tie.
A tricky tie between Paris Saint-Germain and the Chelsea Football Club. The first leg, of course, you know that it's a two-legged match. The first leg will take place at the Parc des Princes. That is a home tour for Paris Saint-Germain, while the second leg takes place at Stamford Bridge, at the ground of Chelsea Football Club. Galatasaray also has been drawn against Liverpool. So Liverpool will be traveling away from home, Kingsley, in the first leg against Galatasaray. Victor Osimhen, shortly after their game against Juventus, when he was being interviewed, he was asked about a team that he wouldn't want to face at this point in time, and he rightly mentioned Liverpool. But now the fear that he feared the most has come to him. Galatasaray against Liverpool. Do you see Victor Osimhen leading this Galatasaray side past Liverpool?
Anything can happen. It's a game of football, but you want to take a look at it on paper. You want to give Liverpool, the edge in this one, based on form, how we've seen them perform so far, in the Champions League. Liverpool got an automatic qualification, while Galatasaray have to struggle without a player. But it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't really, matter. It's just going to boil down to who has the best form and who can, of course, put up the best tactics, to get the job done, at the end of the day. But when you take a look at this strength to strength, you want to give Liverpool, the edge in this one, especially when you take a look at Galatasaray last, encounter. They performed poorly. They had a very poor performance, despite the fact that Juventus were even 1-1 down. They played them very, very well. So with that level of performance, if they don't step up, it will be a problem. Even their key man, Osimhen, was even complaining, despite the fact that, yes, they managed, of course, to get that win. It wasn't a good performance at all. If they take that same performance to play Liverpool, it will be very, very disappointing, as it stands. So if they can step up, I think they could stand a chance against competing with Liverpool. But for Liverpool, I think they're good to go in this particular one.
Liverpool good to go against Galatasaray, but football being what it is, you can't actually write off any team at this crucial stage because this is where, the bar is often raised. And talking about the bar being raised, Kingsley, Real Madrid will be hoping to raise the bar against Manchester City. These two sides have met more often in the recent years, more than any other club. This is another big tie. The first leg takes place at Santiago Bernabeu. Who do you see going through among these two heavyweights?
It's a huge tie that has a lot of consequences. You could imagine, at the end of the day, one of these teams will have to leave the competition at the round of 16. Is it that Real Madrid will leave or Manchester City will leave at the round of 16? If you take a look at it, in the past 3 or 4 seasons now, these two teams have always made it down to the semi-final somehow. All right, but at this point in time, it is either going to be Manchester City leaving in the round of 16 or Real Madrid. So it's a very, very highly contested, encounter, as it stands, and we just look forward to see what will come up. Real Madrid not really in their best of form, but when you talk about the Champions League, you don't talk form for Real Madrid. You talk about results that they can turn out at any point in time. They even strive in the Champions League when they are not even in the best of form. We said it happened under Carlo Ancelotti several times. So you talk about form, don't bring it to the Champions League when it comes to Real Madrid at this point in time. They can still do the unthinkable. For Manchester City, yes, we've seen them trying to pick form in their last 3-4 games domestically, but can they, of course, take down to the Champions League? That's another ball game at this point in time. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and see what comes up in that particular one. But it's a game of very, very huge, consequence at this point in time. Imagine Real Madrid being offset out in the round of 16, or Manchester City being offset out in the round of 16. They even make the Champions League more open for maybe any other team that will possibly get down to the final of the competition.
Big heavyweight clash as the Los Blancos welcome Manchester City at the Bernabeu. Another fixtures we see Atalanta welcoming Bayern Munich, the Bavarians at the Bergamo City. Kingsley, on paper, you want to say Bayern Munich is highly favored in this one, but football is not played on paper, isn't it?
Football is not played on paper, just like you mentioned. They take a look at the playoff encounter between Dortmund and Atalanta. Dortmund got the edge in the first leg. I think they won about, was it 2-0 or something. Atalanta had to come back home and were able to play, I think, about 4-1 in that encounter. So that's the thing. Football is not scripted. Anything can happen at any point in time. So we can see Bayern, they've been impressive right from the league stage of the competition, finishing, I think, about second on the league phase of the game. But it's a knockout phase. Anything can happen and you're being knocked off, as it stands. So we shouldn't write Atalanta off. I think if they can do it against Borussia Dortmund, another German side, they can possibly replicate that same feat against Bayern Munich. So for me, I think it's still a 50-50 encounter, despite the fact that on paper, Bayern Munich have the edge in that one.
On paper, the Bavarians, talking about Bayern Munich, have the edge, but football-wise, it's a 50-50 game, according to Kingsley. Meanwhile, at St. James Park, Newcastle United welcome Catalan-based Giants, talking about Barcelona in another interesting tie. This one is another tricky tie. Kingsley, Newcastle United will be welcoming Barcelona at St. James Park in the first leg.
If it was the Barca of last season to say, I don't think we should be talking about this being a tricky tie. All right, the Barca of last season in the UEFA Champions League that played very beautiful football, especially was it in the semi-final stage against Inter Milan. All right, but the Barca this season look a little bit shaky, dropping vital points in the Spanish La Liga. All right, you see teams that are not supposed to maybe lose against, you see them losing points. Teams that are not supposed to, of course, draw, you see them, of course, playing draw, as it stands. Barca has not been that, very fantastic. I think the other day, I heard that the coach of the side, Arsene Flick, has put up a fine of about, is it £140,000, something for players, that come late to training, and all of that, just to make sure he actually inject that seriousness, into the side. The players really have to step up. Lami Yamal, you talk about the likes of, Rafinha and the rest of them. They really have to be at their best. This is Barcelona we're talking about. It's not a small team. So against the Newcastle side, for me, if it was last season, I wouldn't even bother because I know that Barca will get the job done. But this Newcastle is not a team you see you write off. Anything can happen, as a start. So for me, we just look forward to see how it is. But on paper, you want to see Barcelona, of course, have the edge based on experience and pedigree in the competition.
Based on experience and pedigree in the competition, Barca seems to have the edge, but like we keep saying, football is a different ball game when it gets to the pitch of play. It's about 11 players, so we'll just wait to see how that one pans out. But then one thing is certain, is going to be an interesting encounter. Atletico Madrid at the Wanda Metropolitano will be up against Tottenham Hotspur. Fair game, you want to say? I think that Tottenham Hotspur may just be the whooping team in this counter, considering their poor run of form in the English Premier League.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Tottenham, they've been poor in the Premier League, but not that poor in the Champions League. All right, so we just have to keep our fingers crossed against an Atletico Madrid that can be shaky anytime. All right, so I think for me, we should just not write Tottenham Hotspur off, in this one. They still have what it takes, to go all the way to get, through to the next round of the competition.
Another big clash, interesting and tricky, is going to be Bodo Glimt. The Giant Slayers welcome Sporting CP in the first leg. These two matches could just prove to be one of the exciting fixtures because these are teams of equal strength.
Equal strength to say. With what Bodo Glimt have done so far in the Champions League, you want to say, they have that strength to compete with Sporting, at this point in time. Another tricky one to look at for Bodo Glimt's been fantastic. Giant Slayer so far in the competition. If they can take out teams like Inter Milan, beat them home and away. So why can't they do it against Sporting? That's another, huge, talking point, as a stand. They've beaten Manchester City, they've beaten Atletico Madrid so far in this competition. Is this Sporting that they cannot beat? So for me, I think they have what it takes, of course, to skate through. It will be another huge record for them if they beat Sporting and skate through to the quarterfinal of the competition.
Huge record that the Norwegian side will be chasing. Talking about Bodo Glimt, they've played very intelligent and exciting football, even when they come up against some of the big teams so far in this competition. I would just hope to see them continue to progress, but then they will get to meet Sporting CP, and it promises to be another exciting fixtures. Bayern Leverkusen, yes, will be at home against Arsenal in the first leg. Arsenal, Kingsley, so many have tipped Arsenal for this year's UEFA Champions League.
Yes,
but it doesn't come easy that way. You need to beat the best of the best. But then some have described this pairing as one of the weakest pairing in this draw. Do you agree?
I think you take a look at the road, let's say from the round of 16 to the final, Arsenal have a very good chance. With the way the pairing or the draw has been done, Arsenal, of course, will not play PSG. They will not play Liverpool. They will not play Real Madrid. They will not play Manchester City and Bayern Munich as well. So if you look at it, they avoid all the big teams. So if they win against Bayer Leverkusen and as they stand a chance of playing either Bodo Glimt or Sporting in the quarterfinal of the competition. So you see how the road is very easy for them, as it stands. So, and if they progress down to the semi-final, they will face the likes of either Tottenham Hotspur, or maybe talk about Atletico Madrid or Newcastle or Barcelona. So you could see that the road to the final is somehow easy for Arsenal at this point. It's just for them to just get their job done. Whichever team, of course, they meet in the quarterfinal, talk about the semi-final, as it stands. So avoiding these big teams, PSG, Real Madrid, Manchester City, really gives Arsenal an edge, in this competition. I think for me, this is the time Arteta has to win the Champions League. From what I've seen, based on the calculations and everything, it's the season for Arteta to win the Champions League. If he doesn't win it, then I think he has himself to blame at this point.
Arsenal, more like an easy draw, this very one. We can also let you know that the round of 16 matches will be played in two-legged format on March 10th to 11th and March 17th to 18th, with a kickoff time of this game starting from 6:45 and 9 p.m. Nigerian time. One interesting thing, Kingsley, about this round of 16 draw is that 6 English Premier League side progressed, and fortunately enough, not even one of these English side were paired against each other. This should be an advantage for the English club.
Definitely an advantage for them. This should tell you that at least one of these teams should be in the final. All right, you can't have 6 Premier League teams qualifying to the knockout stages of the competition and none of them were able to get to the final. It would be a very, very disappointing one. So for me, I think the English side have a huge chance of getting down to the final of the UEFA Champions League.
All right, meanwhile, Victor Osimhen, yes, has been named among the best 11 UEFA players after his impressive display in the UEFA Champions League. Other names in the list include Zabacosta and the rest of them who did pretty well. Away from that, let's talk about some transfer gist before we leave the studio this evening, as Arsenal are leading the chase for Nigerian-born Atlanta defender Honest Ahano, with the Gunners weighing up a £30 million bid for the 18-year-old centre-back ahead of a summer transfer window. Meanwhile, the North London club will face stiff competition from Manchester City, Chelsea, Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur, Newcastle, and Atletico Madrid for the services of this young teenager. Kingsley, Arsenal, they are still hoping to continue beefing up their squad. Now they are going for a young teenager and a defender. I think Arsenal really need this teenager?
I think they do, despite the fact that maybe you might not really see the room for him, to come in. Looking at the fact that Arsenal are, of course, star-studded, at this point in time. But I think despite that, the fact that I guess they still have, top players, both on the field and on the bench, possibly they can still bring in some of these young guys, to see how to, of course, continue to strengthen. You might need them at any point. Arsenal play in different competitions, and I think looking at it, it's time, because there's a game you can reshuffle, talking about the coach, so bring in some of these young legs and see what they can be able to do, and using that opportunity to rest your key players. So for me, so far so good. I think Arsenal star-studded, but I think they can still bring in 1 or 2 players to, of course, continue to beef up the team.
Yes, Arsenal continue to beef up their team, but I'm afraid this is where we need to stop for this evening edition of the show. You do well to join us tomorrow morning for Sports Personality. I did a show alongside Kingsley Emmanuel. My name is Emmanuel Michael, the Prime Minister of the Airways, and we are saying have a very nice evening ahead.
The board, management, and staff of Morrison Media Group presents the 2026 Anniversary Celebration Lecture of Morrison Media Group. Theme: Media's role in shaping social change, addressing inequities, and empowering voices. Chairman Alex Ndudi Enebele, FSM, President, Institute of Strategic Management of Nigeria, Chartered. Keynote speaker, Professor Armstrong Idachaba, Professor of Media and Broadcasting Communication. Panelist, Professor Chris Ochonogo, Immediate Past Head of Department, Journalism and Media Studies, University of Port Harcourt. Dr. Ijoma Tobosia, Secretary, NUJ, River State. Dr. Sarah Joe, University Orator and Associate Dean, Faculty of Communication and Media, River State University, Port Harcourt. Dr. Ibiere Koki, Ignatius Aju University of Education, Rumolomini, Port Harcourt. Chief Host, Dr. Chinyere Igwe, Esquire, Chairman, Morrison Group. Date: Tuesday, 10th March 2026. Venue: Gate Place Hotel, Kilometer 5, East West Road, adjacent Obirikwere Flyover, Rumosi, Port Harcourt. Time: 10 a.m. For more information, please call Kainde Paul Obofadi 081 063
41777 or Samuel Ajinwo at 090 454 00744. Signed, Management.